Are you all ready? It is time for another episode of Adaptation News. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a well-caffeinated composer, now also a booktuber. You can find my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the newly released psychological horror film Dead Whisper. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the books you love and their adaptations for the big and small screen. So, I love this segment. It's been a real joy to kind of combine my love of adaptations, my knowledge of the source material, and being in the industry, my knowledge of how things are going in the behind the scenes. So I kind of always like to give you a little bit of a bird's eye view into how those things are going, because not everything is announced in terms of articles or, kind of videos or trailers and things like that. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and you can kind of see when different casts get added, when different people in the crew get added, gives you a good indication of how a project is doing behind the scenes, and if it's actually moving forward or if it's just announced and we don't hear about it again for years, right? Which often is the case. Some things go through development hell is what the industry term is coined, which means that they announce it, make a big splash on Variety or Deadline or something, one of these industry trade publications. Everybody gets super hyped, never hear about it. Crickets for years, right? So I want to kind of start off with one piece of news that I'm very excited about, but also cautiously optimistic about. Now, as anybody who's watched this channel knows, I'm a big Stephen King fan, favorite author of all time, whole shelf dedicated to the man back there, as I always like to say. And so I wanted to give a first piece of Stephen King news. And for those of you who don't know, his first published novel, Carrie, is being adapted by none other than horror great Mike Flanagan for the TV series. So very interesting stuff. It looks like it's in development at Amazon MGM. And, Mike Flanagan, one thing I'm really excited about Mike Flanagan doing this is he's so good at horror. He's also so good at adapting Stephen King. Now, you may know him from, Gerald's Game. He did Dr. Sleep. He's also worked on his own properties like Midnight Mass, which is very terrifying. And he's really good, I think, at kind of balancing religious themes with horror, as was evidenced in Midnight Mass. And I think it will be very interesting for him to tackle Carrie. Now, the reason why I'm saying cautiously optimistic is because there's been like 3 adaptations of Carrie already. I think personally, the Brian De Palma OG one is my favorite. And I think it was the most poetic. So I always feel like when people try to do a flashy version of the story, they kind of focus more on the the blood and the bloody scene that everybody knows about, right? And the kind of the grand finale of it, and make it a little bit more gratuitous and a little bit more like, kind of just the VFX and everything like that. But the one thing I loved about Brian De Palma's adaptation, of course, the original source material, is how they kind of go into the psyche of Carrie and Carrie's mother, and how Carrie is a real victim of circumstance, living with this, religious extremist mother. And kind of the toll it takes on the whole family. So I'm excited to see how Mike Flanagan tackles that. Now, the other reason I'm cautious is because, selfishly, I want him to get back to the Dark Tower TV series. If you don't know, he's also adapting that, and that's like a dream of mine. It's also a dream of his, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that come to the fold, but hopefully we won't have to wait too much longer. But I'm leaving the articles that I always, put in any of these videos, I'm leaving them in the description, so you can kind of read about them as well, because I only get this flash, like a little bit of it on the screen, and I want to make sure that you all get a chance to kind of read those and decide for yourself how you feel about it. So with that said, if you, feel great about this, if you feel kind of not so great about this, I don't mind. Like, any opinion is valid. It's always welcome. Leave it in the comments. Like, I always love to have discussions with you all, create a dialogue, and, got to kind of just chat about these things, because some things are very exciting for some, not as exciting for others. And I'd love to hear why either way. And I think a lot of the people in the community would benefit from that as well. So moving right along to another piece of Stephen King adaptation news. So I found this article on Joe Blow. So if you don't know about Joe Blow, often has really good takes on different horror adaptations and things like that, and horror movies as well. So I always like to see what this particular website has to say about different adaptations. And this one was an interview actually with Judy Greer of The Long Walk. And kind of talking a little bit about the process of that and how it took so long to get made. So at one point, it was in the hands of Frank Darabont, who had made The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and was really a de facto... and The Mist as well. And he was really a de facto go-to person for Stephen King adaptations. It went through development hell, of course. So it looks like now Long Walk has landed at, I think it's, let's see, there's Lionsgate is involved. I think Atomic Monster, a couple of other production companies, New Line, I think. So Judy Greer is, if you don't know, from the Halloween and Ant-Man franchises, and she kind of talks a little bit about, how it was like being on set and filming this film. Now it's wrapped up with filming, presumably. I don't think there's a release date yet for this, but she kind of goes and talks about how this particular adaptation of the film is going to be beautiful and dark. And I think if that's the case, it'll likely do justice to the book. So I'm very excited to see this. Let me know in the comments if you're excited to see this as well. So moving right along, we're going to step away from Stephen King actually for this one. This one is interesting. So Netflix is going to be releasing the animated version of Roald Dahl's The Twits in 2025. And I believe this is supposed to come out in June of 2025. And take a look at these. I'm just leaving these visuals on screen so you can kind of take a look at what they look like. First look of the visuals. Looks really fantastic, actually. So it says there's a filmmaking team of co-directors Katie Shanahan and Todd DeMong, producer Maggie Malone, co-producer Daisy West, and writer Meg Favreau. So it's also being produced by Academy Award nominee Phil Johnston from Ralph Breaks the Internet, and animated by Jellyfish Pictures, The Boss Baby and The Bad Guys. So looks really cool. Interested to see how it is. I don't know if you all grew up reading Roald Dahl as much as I did, but I remember I went through a Roald Dahl phase. And I just love the man. And so anything Roald Dahl, I'm always interested in at least giving a cursory glance, even if there's suspect people involved and stuff like that. Not going to mention any previous adaptations, of course. But, I'm excited to see this one. I think it actually looks pretty good. So looking forward to seeing this, and exciting news all around for adaptations. So moving right along to yet another piece of news. So for fans of Children of Blood and Bone, the African-inspired fantasy series written by Tomi Adeyemi, who's also serving as the writer and executive producer on the adaptation that is being developed by Paramount Pictures. So, Gina Prince Bythewood, I believe that's the correct pronunciation of that, is the director of this, and she announced on her Instagram just a couple days ago that they are actually casting in Nigeria for the actors, and they're doing an open casting call, which is very exciting. So just leaving the kind of screenshot up here so you could see the little Instagram post there. But that is exciting. That means that things are actually moving along. They're actually casting this thing. It's still in pre-production officially as of September 12th, but I think it's right about to go into production and start filming soon. So exciting news all around for this, because this one also had a long story in its genesis. It was with Lucasfilm and at one point, and then it kind of, again, development hell, ended up at Paramount. And it's nice to see that this one is actually going to come to life. And it looks like the people involved are fantastic, actually. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this one. I really enjoyed the first book. I don't know if you've all read this book, but it's fantastic. And when I was reading it, I remember thinking like, oh, this would be so good on film if they could do justice to it. And I think like the people involved will do justice to it. So I'm optimistic about these types of things. I always say, adaptations can be hit or miss. Sometimes it's more miss than hit, honestly. But in this case, it's nice to see that good people are involved, and it seems like it has a solid pathway forward. So moving right along yet again, let's get back to some Stephen King, shall we? So The Running Man is being adapted. I mentioned this in a previous adaptation news update. I don't remember if it was episode 1 or 2, but it is being directed by Edgar Wright. So I was looking on the IMDb page. So IMDb is basically kind of an industry news source for letting you know what's going on behind the scenes in these different film and TV projects and things like that. And it looks like Glenn Powell is the lead actor who's slated to take on Arnold Schwarzenegger's previous role as the main character, Ben Richards. And Glenn Powell is better known as, I'm just pulling up the article here just because I want to make sure I get it right. So he's from Top Gun Maverick and Hitman and Twisters fame. So he kind of broke out from the Top Gun Maverick, I think, role that he had. And so Joe Blow, yet again, has kind of released these photos. They're kind of candid photos of Glenn Powell on the set of Running Man. So that's great to hear that the Running Man is moving forward and it looks like it's slated for release. And they even have a release date now, and it's November 21st, 2025. So we got a little bit of time to wait, just a little bit over a year from the taping of this video. But hey, we got some more Stephen King coming up, up to hold us over, I think, until the Running Man. So, I always felt like the original adaptation, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, was hokey and it was fun, and Arnold, 80s Arnold, you can't go wrong, and it's just always a fun time. But, it doesn't necessarily do justice to the tone and style of the book. And I think they're, from articles I was reading about the Running Man adaptation by Edgar Wright, they're really trying to do justice to the book. So anytime people say that, at least, it means that they're actually trying. And hey, that means we're probably 50% of the way there, right? Because I think with some of these adaptations, they say, oh, we want to do our own spin on these things. It never really works out, So I'm very heartened by the fact that Edgar Wright has mentioned previously that, he wants to do this the right way. So this is all very exciting news. Now let's go to, just looking at my list here, Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir has an actual release date. And that is going to be May 20th, 2026. So we got a ways to go, unfortunately. But this is going to be an interesting one. It's starring Ryan Gosling as Ryland Grace, the main actor in this. Now, small cast, because if you've read the book by Andy Weir, small cast there as well. It's in post-production right now as of October 26, 2024. Post-production basically means for anyone who's a layman to the industry, that means they are now getting the music in and the sound design and the color grading and the editing and everything like that to kind of make this film complete. So very exciting stuff all the way. And so we got a little bit of ways to wait, but with something this grandiose in scale and a sci-fi epic like how Andy Weir does with his books, to do it right, I would imagine the post-process would actually be huge. You got VFX as well to do, large portion of that. So, we got a ways to wait, but exciting news all around for fans of this book. So, and then the last piece of news I'm going to leave here is for Joe Abercrombie fans. So, I had mentioned, I think previously in an adaptation news update, that Best Served Cold was being adapted. Now, this is a standalone novel in his First Law series. So if you don't know, it's a 9-book series. So he had a First Law trilogy, then 3 standalones, and then another sequel trilogy. So this is the first standalone, or the 4th book out of 9 in the series. So when this first broke that Rebecca Ferguson was going to be involved, people were very excited. And, it seemed like it was moving. Tim Miller from Love, Death, and Robots fame is going to be the director of this film. And it seemed like it was moving and things were happening and it was slamming, But then, of course, there was the news that, it's not going anymore. And so people were really upset about this. And I have some good news for you, fans of this. So I just looked on IMDb Pro and I saw that Quillen Wilson has just been added as first assistant camera for this project. Now, does that mean this thing is completely moving forward? No, it's still in the script phase as of September 20th and hasn't been updated since then. But somebody behind the camera being added to this project is very heartening news that they're actually planning on filming this thing and not just shelving it. So that means hopefully a Best Served Cold adaptation in our near future. So Joe Abercrombie fans, rejoice! Let me know what you think about all these adaptation updates. I always love to give you guys, as much information about this stuff as possible, and also stuff that may be conjecture, maybe more speculative, but are actual things that you can tangibly see on a list of like cast and crew. Oh, they've been actually added to this project. It's officially moving in a particular direction. So let me know what you think about this video. And if you want to see future videos like this, please like and subscribe and help spread the word about this channel. Always helps out, the algorithm gods kind of send this out to people who would want to see this. And it means the world to me and the community that we're trying to build here. So I'm Nick Hill with Shelf-Esteem. Thank you for watching Adaptation News Episode 3. Hope you have a lovely weekend, folks. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. I will see you, as always, on the next video. Take care.